Reality with a bit of insanity. It's Fox Across America with Jimmy Failla.
It is Fox Across America with your radio buddy, Jimmy Failla. We are, of course, talking about the GOP race for the nomination. Donald Trump with a major lead right now in the polls. There's very much a rally around the flag mentality as far as his base is concerned. But if you're looking out there at the world, there happens to be a lot of momentum for one Nikki Haley.
Wrong.
Okay, I know Trump doesn't feel that way, but she has, in fact, pulled well ahead of Ron DeSantis.
There's a slob. There's a real slob.
Now, some of that is obviously attributable to the fact that DeSantis has done a terrible job. Their campaign basically spent $1 gazillion, and for all intents and purposes, Trump has treated DeSantis with the same dismissive vibe he dished out for Jeb Bush.
Go home to mommy. Go home. Bye. Go home to mommy. Go home to mommy.
Okay, but as far as Haley is concerned, where she's positioned, well, whether she winds up being Trump's VP, or if you hear her tell it, she claims she's going to go out there and actually win the nomination. I don't know how that's going to play out right now. But the point is, there's one key issue in the general that really does determine who controls the White House. Sadly, the issue is abortion. Okay, it's the number one turnout issue for Democrats, where they hold monstrous leads over Republicans. So Nikki is uniquely positioned to potentially win back that ground, because she has a message that comes from a woman, does not demonize the opposition, and is a lot more doable, okay, for the suburban swing voter and, dare I say, the female voter. And joining us now to talk about all of this is a woman who is not only a former governor of South Carolina, a UN ambassador, but we know her around here as the queen of the keg stand. Nikki Haley is back on the show. Hey, girl.
Hey, Jimmy, how are you?
So I have to tell you this. You've become, you were already a little bit of a rock star around here, but you have a lot of street cred with the female anchors at Fox News. The last two women who came on my show yesterday, Martha McCallum and Shannon Bream, brought up your interview about the keg stands.
Well, only you would ask me that question. And, when stuff like that comes up, you got to tell the truth. Well, fair. Yeah.
No, for real. And we appreciate the candor. We appreciate you being a real person. And here's the thing. Martha McCallum, who I know you were on her show, she said that she went to Liberty University. They didn't do keg stands. They were more of a funnel crowd. But I would imagine as a member of the keg stand club, you're all encompassing. You would welcome the funnel crowds as well, right?
I think we all know that we had fun in different ways.
Thank you.
So I appreciate that everybody's got some memories that they know about that they don't necessarily want their kids to know about, but it is what it is.
That's a good point, by the way. I didn't think of it from that perspective, but my son is...
yeah, so now my kids actually know that I did a keg stand, so thank you for that.
That's all right. Listen, they're probably more... They're actually more inclined to vote for you now. Some of them were on the fence. I kid. Let me jump in here on this one. The Colorado court had a lot of liberals partying when they kicked Trump off the ballot. I don't think people realize what a dangerous precedent this is for the country, to start there. What do you think?
I was infuriated by this. I mean, look, I don't think Donald Trump needs to be the next president. I think I need to be the next president. I think that would be good for the country. Mm-hmm. But I want to beat him fair and square. Mm-hmm. We don't need to have judges deciding who should and shouldn't be on the ballot. That is so dangerous to do that.
Yep.
And that is totally undermining the will of the people. Mm-hmm. I trust Americans to make that decision. I trust the people of Colorado to make that decision. And the people of Colorado should be furious. But what I don't like, Jimmy, is where is Joe Biden?
Yeah.
Why has he not stood up and said, this is wrong?
Yep.
Where are the Democrats? How can they say that this is okay? Because this is, yes, while they might be doing this to Donald Trump, this could happen to them too.
Yep.
And in a time where we need to have more freedom, mm-hmm. more individual liberty, less government control, less mandates, this is the total opposite.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what people don't like. It's exactly what we're fighting. And the fact that Joe Biden is unbelievably silent on this is so telling of where he wants to take our country.
That is a great point. We're talking to Nikki Haley, who, if elected, would be the first president to invite Def Leppard to the White House, as far as my calculations are concerned. But let me stay focused for a second. When you talk about this issue and the Democrats being in a position where they're okay, seemingly, with the lawfare that we're seeing as it pertains to Donald Trump, I think it's very reflective of the climate we find ourselves in. Do you think, as a president, you could actually lower the thermostat? Because it's so cutthroat, and I do believe that they're bringing most of this aggression to the fight.
Well, I think it's a couple of things. I think, first of all, this is why I say, look, I think President Trump was the right president at the right time. I agree with a lot of his policies. I had a good working relationship with him. But rightly or wrongly, Jimmy, chaos follows him. It just does. It follows him. And if you look at it, this is one of many things, but we can't have a country in disarray. We can't have a world on fire and go through 4 more years of chaos. We won't survive it. You don't defeat Democrat chaos with Republican chaos. And right now we're sitting in Democrat chaos. That's why we need to have strong conservative views out there that are focused on freedom and democracy and strength, and getting rid of the lawlessness, whether it's at the border, getting an economy that's under control, paying down our debt, getting our kids reading and schools back to the basics. Those are the things we need to focus on. And we don't have time for any more chaos and distractions. And this is another example of that.
I agree on all of this. So let me throw this one at you, because, as a guy who follows the politics day in and day out on the TV and the radio, okay, a lot of the hot talk right now is that you are surging past Ron DeSantis in a lot of ways. In a moment of pure candor, I want you to give me a percentage. How much of this is you being a great candidate? How much of this, percentage-wise, is them running a bad campaign?
Oh, I think I'm a fantastic candidate.
Yeah, you are.
Because I think I know exactly what the people want. I'm a military spouse. I'm a mom. I'm the daughter of legal immigrants who think it's offensive what's happening at the border. I'm an accountant. I know what the people are saying, and I know how to relate to them. And more than anything, I tell them the hard truth. That's the key. I don't pay attention to anybody else's campaign. I mean, if Ron's campaign is a dumpster fire, that's his issue. My issue is, how do I connect with as many people as I can, answer as many questions as I can, and let them know that we have a country to save? And I think that's why we're surging, is people get that I am, honest with them. And I think they're seeing what I did in South Carolina, where, it was we brought the people in and we made South Carolina an economic powerhouse. I think they saw my strength against Russia, China, Iran, and all our adversaries at the UN, and how we brought respect to America again. And I think that they're tired and they want to see some direction, but more than that, they want to see results, and they feel like they get that with me.
Nikki Haley is on the line, former South Carolina governor, former UN ambassador, current surging GOP candidate for the White House. So I know you see that momentum and you feel that momentum on the road, because I see your events and I see the turnout and everything in between. But are you at the place in the movie, okay, in the Nikki Haley movie, are you at the place where you feel enough momentum that you could actually beat Trump? Where are we in the movie right now?
I know we can. Without a question, I know we can. I've always known that we can, because I trust the American people. It's not that we don't appreciate President Trump's service. I appreciate his service. I know that he didn't get a moment's peace or an ounce of credit. It is about the fact that I don't want my kids to grow up like this. I don't want a country like this. And we can do better. And this is a time where we have too many threats around the world to be putting our head in the sand. And this is a time where you look at the younger generation, they don't know how they're going to get a job. They don't know how they're going to afford rent. They don't know when they're ever going to be able to afford a home. And then there's, protests on college campuses. This is about not just thinking 4 or 8 years. This is about, where do we want to go 10, 20, 30 years out? We owe it to our country to do that. And so, look, I mean, I think that's what we have. We have a chance to do something really great here, and I think the people of Iowa are getting it. I think the people of New Hampshire are saying we're going to do this, and I think the people in my sweet state of South Carolina are going to help us get it. And I think that we have a country to save. I think everybody knows that, and we're going to fight until the very end. We're not letting our foot off the gas at all.
I dig it. And I think something that's conveniently overlooked by a lot of voters is if they wound up with a Trump-Biden matchup, they're essentially getting a lame duck president no matter how this thing shakes out. I mean, you are positioned uniquely to serve 2 terms. So there's a lot of, there is absolutely positively a lot of upside. But the only other thing I wanted to ask you, okay?
Well, let me just say this, Nikki. Jimmy. Let me just say this, because if you look at the head-to-head polls with any of us and Biden, I mean, Trump might beat Biden by 2. The Journal, he was up by 4. That's margin of error. You look at every one of those general election polls. In Wall Street Journal and the others, I'm up double digits. I beat Biden by 17 points. Wow. That means it's more than the presidency. That's about governorships. That's winning the House. That's winning the Senate. And that's a mandate to pay our debt down and to get our economy under control. That's a mandate to get our kids reading again and getting our schools back to the basics. That's why that's going to matter.
No, I think all of that's huge. And that's a really good point to potentially make on a debate stage if you can ever get anyone to debate you.
Well, we enjoy debates, and I'm sure that, we've got another one coming up, I guess, on January 10th in Iowa, so we look forward to it.
Rock and roll. Merry Christmas to all the Haleys. Try not to do too many keg stands with the kids, okay?
Oh, Merry Christmas. It's always fun to be with you. Thank you so much. We look forward to seeing you in person and being on your show again.
Let's get them. Take care, Nikki. Take care. There she goes. Nikki Haley, surging in the polls. Makes a really good point, man. I say this all the time on this show. Could Nikki Haley be president of Twitter?
The answer would be no.
No chance. Okay, Twitter loves Trump, and to some extent they like DeSantis because DeSantis hired a lot of Twitter influencers. That's what he strategized his campaign around. He was like, I got it. I'll pay all the people who live in Florida that are big on Twitter.
That's stupid. Use your common sense.
They've run such a bad campaign, DeSantis. That being said, the point Haley makes about polling is true. Trump beats Biden in a lot of polls head-to-head by a point or 2. Okay, Haley beats him by 15 to 18 points. The reason it's significant is because that means she can win down ballot. Okay, if you beat a guy by 1 point, it means the voters are pretty split over which party they want, which means you're not going to carry a majority in the Senate and the House. Okay, Trump has historically been a really bad candidate down ballot, meaning his actual candidates, okay, have not led to majorities in the Senate and the House. We were supposed to have a red wave on the midterm elections this year. It was supposed to be a red wave to wash over the whole thing. And if you were on Twitter day in and day out, you were convinced that there was no other possibility but a red wave. And I say that why? Because they weren't even close. Okay, we didn't go anywhere close to a red wave. When you see one candidate in the general election beating the other by 17 points, that means you're going to win everything down the ballot. So she's positioned really well. The truth is there's a lot of anger in this primary. Obviously, the Republicans are rallying around the flag because we're watching a political persecution against Donald Trump. But if this election comes down to who can win the White House, the House, and the Senate, Nikki Haley actually would wind up being the nominee. I'm not saying we're going to get there because the God's honest truth is Trump still has a big lead on her, okay? And there's a lot of people in the party that would rather lose with Trump than win with anybody else, if only because it's as personal as it is. So it's a lot of buzzwords floating around Twitter when you hear Nikki Haley's name. But if you're actually paying attention to what voters want and not the hive-minded lunacy that describes Twitter, then you realize Nikki Haley has a really good shot at running the table here.